Well, aloha kakahiak, everybody. Today is August 20th, 2021. It is almost 9 o'clock Hawaii time. And if it's not almost 9 o'clock Hawaii time, it means you're watching the pre-recorded show. And you can fast forward to about 5 minutes or so if you want to skip over the pregame show, which I am here today with my good friends. We got Scott Startsman, who is from the island of Oahu, and we have Heidi Dollinger, who is from Maui. Our other friend Dylan Nonaka, who's here, who is from the Big Island, is not here today. He's actually in the air right now, so we're really happy to have Dylan. We're really happy to have Scott and Heidi here. So let's do a real quick mic check and the coffee and the coffee check. Here, where's my sacred mug? Heidi, what's the coffee of the day? What's going on? You have a new poster in your background there too. What's happening, Heidi?
Well, I just had a great walk this morning, went out to the beach and stopped at my favorite coffee shop, of course, because that's how I love to start my day. And it's just, anyway, just so grateful to be able to get outside and enjoy nature. I mean, for me, that's just non-negotiable way to start the day.
I completely agree. That is the way to start today. Scott, what about you? How do you start your day, and what's going on over there in your neck of the woods?
I started my day this morning straight into work, but yesterday I took a walk around Diamond Head. I was able to get up early enough and just kind of take a little break. And man, it was hard. I mean, talk about nature. That south swell's been coming in, and Diamond Head, as you know, if it's clean, it's an amazing surf spot, and it was coming in well over head high, super clean, no winds. You know, if you get the winds off of Diamond Head, it can be brutal trying to surf out there. It's just victory at sea, and you're struggling for your life, especially if you're on a longer board. I go out on a 9-foot board, but I was doing the loop. I'm halfway around Diamond Head, and look over and I see the surf. I'm like, oh man, I was so jealous I couldn't get in the water. Lineup was packed, but it was great. It looked beautiful.
Yeah, there's a big south rolling through right now. Huge. Our friends are coming online already, which is great. So Joan Valentine, aloha from Colorado Springs. Joan has joined our fall 2021 cohort. Can't wait to get that started. And welcome, Joan. Great to see you. And we got Dwayne, aloha from Kentucky. Dwayne, I'm so glad you're here to visit us virtually from Kentucky. Actually, we got Scott. Scott's got the natural view here. Yeah, those are real palm trees. That's a live shot. He is Scott. Here, hold on a second. Here, here. Okay, now you can duck.
Yeah, me get out of the way, right? much better view with me out of the picture.
That's a great. Well, you're part of the view, but the view behind you is great. And Christopher is back with the hey, Christopher, welcome back, buddy. Good to see aloha kakahiaka from Christopher. And Tom Kerr has recognized that today is a state holiday. Today is Happy Statehood Day. Now that's an interesting topic in and of itself. We may talk about that. That is the Tom, the statehood is the least celebrated and most hated state holiday in Hawaii, without question. And maybe if we have a chance, we'll talk about what. Yeah, tell you what. Okay, so let's see. There's 90 that have joined us live. So statehood is like the most hated and unpopular holiday in our state. If you want to find out why, let me know in the comments if you want to find out, and then maybe we'll talk about it. Amy's with us. Amy Beard. Aloha, Amy. We're glad that you are here with us. And yeah, hey, Dwayne, that's right, buddy. We do watch these comments. It is a live show. You know, someone said, someone made a really cool comment. They said about the show. It said, you know, it's almost like a bunch of friends that are getting together on the weekend. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what it's like. That's kind of what it's like. So I had a funny here's my funny story for today. So a super big thanks to Scott, who sent me a text message 10 minutes. So normally we fire the show up at 5 minutes prior. 10 minutes prior, I get a text message. Well, here's what happened. So for some reason today, my brain, it's one of the, you know, look, we do the show every other week, right? Like clockwork, over a year now. For some reason in my head today, the show was starting at 10. So I'm like, okay, I got till 10. At 9, I'm going to go take a shower. So at 10 minutes to, I get this text message, and I didn't even look at the text message. I'm like, who sent me a text message? And then all of a sudden, like, it's 8:50. Wait a minute. The show's at 9. Oh my God. Heidi and Scott are in the waiting room. Oh my God. So we made it. We are here. We made it. And thank you, Scott. And thank you, Heidi, for having the having the faith that we're going to have a show today. So it is 9 o'clock. Let's move into the news section of the show and do a quick overview. So let me give you all kind of a quick update on kind of what's going on here in the state over the past couple of weeks. Let's do it this way. Okay, so a couple of things. So if you look at the curve, I put some curves over there. You look at these curves, the two graphs. The graph in the upper right-hand side is the cases, and you're seeing a huge spike. So Hawaii, like the rest of the world, is going through a Delta variant spike. Us, it's huge. That curve on the right-hand side is since day one of the coronavirus. Day one, sometime last year, February, March, whatever. But if you look at that spike, we are way higher than we've ever been. So everyone in Hawaii is understandably freaking out. The graph below is hospitalization. So hospitalization curve, you could see we have surpassed the worst. It is worse now than it's ever been in the coronavirus in Hawaii. So everyone is understandably freaking out. So a bunch of things are kind of being talked around. They're talking about changes to the Safe Travels program. So the Safe Travels program up until right now is if you're vaccinated and you can show proof of vaccination, you can skip having to show a negative test. Now, if you're not vaccinated, you have to show a negative test. There's a Safe Travels app. You have to load the test on your app, and you show a QR code, et cetera, et cetera. So they are talking about changes. Changes may be coming. We always try to tell you kind of ahead of time what's going on with the show. So that's one thing. The other one on the related story over there is fake vax cards. Folks, don't fake your vaccination card. Don't fake it. There was two different families that had fake vaccination cards. They got busted, and they were put in jail. They posted bail, $14,000 of bail between the two families, and they're going to face charges. It's a serious crime. It's in Hawaii, using falsified documents for travel is considered a misdemeanor. Violators face penalties up to $5,000 fine and or up to 1 year in prison for a misdemeanor. So don't do that. Hospitals are getting full. Again, we're almost at capacity with hospitals. There's some big concerns, and curfew may be coming. So there's a bunch of stuff afoot. We don't know where it's going to go. It looks like it's leveled off, but it's not. It's the sort of like the jury's still out on that. So I think that's the big news. I'm going to kind of come back to my friends over here. That's the big news that I wanted to kind of talk about. Let's see. We had a couple of comments that have popped in before we get into our discussion over here. Yeah, and Scott is on the ball today. Chris, we can all thank Scott. Scott is what saved the show today. Had Scott not texted, I would have been in the shower right now and, kind of planning for a 10 o'clock start, and it would have completely sucked. Amy, lunch break is over. Hard to miss the rest. Well, great, Amy. I'm glad you're making time for us during the lunch period. And Patrick, aloha from Winters, California. Well, welcome, Patrick. I hope everything is well there in California. And Auntie Joyce is here at Smoky. Auntie Joyce now is usually on the big. She lives on the Big Island, good friend of Dylan's, and she said, "Greetings from Smoky, San Francisco Bay Area. Pretty bad here. Miss my home." Dwight, Auntie Joyce, it's not in quotes. It's the home. Home is in Hawaii. It's not a quote. It's the real deal. Heather, aloha, watching from Oregon. Welcome, Heather. We are glad you are part of the show. And Neil is back with us. I remember Neil. Welcome back, Neil. Neil Lieb and Sherry Guo from Claremont, California. Man, we got everyone's coming in over here. And Val is from Illinois. Welcome, Val. Val's put a couple of questions on the show that we've posted. And good old Jeremy. Jeremy, man, you're welcome back. Welcome back to the show, buddy. Jeremy is pursuing a job in the real estate industry as an appraiser. That's it. And been to, I believe, Maui, if I'm not mistaken. Jeremy, welcome back. And Jeff is also watching Oregon. Excellent. Got a bunch of people that are kind of jumping in. Everyone, look at everyone's. Okay, I think we started a trend. This is great. Everybody, post where you're from. And we got Kelly Causey from South Carolina. Welcome, Kelly. The one who's missing, Scott? Jim's missing. Where's Jim? Jim, you better get on. You better hop on, Jim, because you're way behind.
He's on a plane mid-flight because
that's right.
It's time for him to come find his place here.
It is you've been storing you've been holding a condo onto you've been holding onto a condo for Jim. Anyway, so a quick roundup on news. Scott, what's the big news besides that big giant south swell that we got going on? What's happening on Oahu that you want to add for non-real estate related news?
No, I mean the main thing, the interesting thing was the governor was saying the COVID tests, less than 1% of them were coming from tourists. So it's not the tourists that are the issue. It's us as locals. So, you know, I feel like the first thing we got to do is look inward, look at how we're behaving in our actions and what we're doing and clean that up. And if we clean that component up, then, you know, it looks like we're probably going to, level off here if we can do that.
You know, there was a really interesting thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because I had, there was another excerpt I had, let's go a few more shots because everyone's piling on, which is great. So Choi Lee, aloha kakahia from Tracy, California. Welcome, Choi. Great to see you. Sherry. Okay, Sherry, my husband and I have a second home in the Big Island. Sherry, you're going to make that your first home one day soon, right? I'm sure. Jen Tomoko's back. Welcome, Jen. I remember you from previous shows. Aloha from Michigan. Welcome back. And Bobby Williamson. Aloha, everyone from Santa Barbara. Where's Dylan? Bobby Williamson is an alumni of the Islander Ohana. Bobby, Dylan is out today. He's actually on a plane right now, or I know he would have made the show. And we miss him. It won't be quite the same. He is missed, but the show must go on, even if I can't figure out what time the show is supposed to start. Patrick McGanahan is here. We canceled our 2-week vacation because of our 8-year-old daughter. I'm sorry to hear that. Please share if you care. Is your 8-year-old daughter okay? I hope all is well, Patrick. Thank you for sharing. But you know, Scott, back to your point, there was actually a really good story that really really drove point about what happened. And I'll read off real quick over here. So this one is, let's see here. Let's do this. Okay. So some returning residents who tested, some people are testing positive. What's happening is some people are testing positive. They don't even know it. Some returning residents and tourists who tested positive for COVID say they never would have known they were carriers. So these people are vaccinated. They're positive for COVID, but they don't know it. Especially if their unvaccinated children hadn't been tested as a travel requirement. One visitor said he changed her perspective. Here's a couple out of Massachusetts. They spent a year planning their family vacation. Her and her husband fully vaccinated, so they were exempt from testing in the safe travels, but their 2 boys aren't eligible for shots due to their age and had to get tested. So the 2 kids are tested. They're on their way to the airport and they pull up and the kids are positive. The kids are positive and the parents are positive. Everyone's positive, but they didn't know it. So this is an example, I think, of kind of what's so nefarious about this Delta variant is that, you know, you could be a carrier and you don't even know it. And these folks, only because their kids had to get tested, they found out that they were positive. So that's kind of what's going on over there. A few more. Heidi, I'm going to get to you in a sec. I want to get the update from Maui. We got some more. We have a very, Dylan's going to miss out, man. This is like a common heavy group here. Aloha from St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome, St. Louis, Missouri. Will, great to have you here. Will, yeah, Dwayne, no Dylanism, man. It's not going to be the same show. It's going to be as good, but it's not going to be the same. That's for sure. And so he owes us 2 next Friday. We'll make sure he's going to make over that. I have one for today in Dylan's place. Heidi, what's going on in Maui? What news do you have? What non-real estate news you want to share or report for us in Maui, Heidi?
Well, I think, COVID and the Delta variant's on everybody's mind. That's on the news everywhere. We would love to be invincible with this vaccine, but things tend to be retreating a little bit. We can't have big gatherings. Again, restaurants are back to 50% capacity. So anyway, it's just important to be vigilant and be aware of what's going on. But as far as tourism, that's been as busy as ever. In local news, we did have a really small brush fire just Mauka of Canoe Beach, which is north of Lahaina, and that kind of stopped traffic last night. About 6 acres burned. I know it's so small, compared to just what's going on in California right now, but one thing about living on an island is there's not a lot of alternate roads. So if there's a roadblock or something, you might have to change your plans or just be patient for a little while. So that's what was going on last night.
You know, that's a great point, Heidi. It may be a 6-acre fire, and you're thinking at 6 acres, that's nothing. But if it's blocking the one road that goes in and out of an area, the whole island kind of grinds to a halt. That's like the equivalent on Oahu, for example, is that every so often we have like a really terrible traffic accident on one of the main freeways, H1, for example. We'll have a traffic jam that kind of blocks traffic in one direction, and the entire island comes to a grinding halt because there's all these after effects of traffic and people go around the other way. Completely kind of blows it up. We do live we forget that we live on an island sometimes. Auntie Joyce, I'm fully vaccinated, but wondering if I should be tested before I head home. Don't want to be the carrier. You know, Auntie Joyce, that's a choice that you can make. I think a lot of places do free testing. I know that when I went to go visit my daughter in Reno, this was before we had the vaccination exemption. You know, I did a drive-through, went to a CVS, you know, put the thing up my nose, put the thing in back, boom, I had it was painless and it was free. So, you know, it was no big deal. Let's see. We get a quick question in here from Will. I want to live completely off the grid in Hawaii. Where are the best areas to do this? Well, you know, I was just researching this myself. You could do it anywhere. You could live off the grid anywhere in Hawaii because you just need solar panels and batteries. So just, you know, pop a bunch of solar panels and a battery system, and you're done. You'll be off the grid. So the answer is anywhere. Now, if you want to live completely in the middle of wilderness, in the middle of nowhere, that's when you're going to talk to Dylan, and he'll tell you you can live in the lava fields on the Big Island. But you don't need to do that. You could live completely off the grid anywhere that you want. All right. I think that's a pretty good thing for today. So far. Let's move on. Let's hit this. We're going to talk about the real estate market, and that's what this show is really all about. I just overheard right before the show started, as I was hurrying and getting dressed right in front of the camera here. I heard Heidi and Scott were talking about the fact that some think it's letting up, but it's not letting up. It's busier than heck. Let's go in reverse. Let's start with Heidi and then Scott. Heidi, give us the update. What is happening in Maui, real estate wise?
Well, on Maui, I mean, we're just riding the wave of 2021 over here. Median sales prices of single family homes on Maui have been over $1 million for a few months now. The latest market stats show $1,050,000 as the median price of a home, which is up over 34% since last year. And then condominiums, median price is currently $713,000, which is up 41% from last year. Just in total volume of everything that has sold on Maui, we're up about 150% compared to last year. We're of course going to see pretty dramatic differences compared to July 2020 versus 2021, because remember, July last year, nobody could travel to Maui. I mean, we were pretty shut down. So part of that's natural, but I mean, the other thing we're seeing in some cases is properties that would have been at risk for foreclosure in a lesser market, these owners are able to just list their property on the open market and sell them and get out from under them because there's just been so much appreciation and value. And then we're also seeing super, super aggressive just listing terms by sellers. For example, there's some listings that came on the market here. There's no pictures. It says no showings until an accepted offer as is. So, I mean, I don't know. That really takes the cake.
Now the question on that's going to be is did they get an offer? That's the crazy part. We'll find out. Heidi, what do you think?
Yeah, they're still getting offers. I mean, it's just.
And there you go.
Personally, I wouldn't do that. I don't think that's the best way to market a property, but I think there's more story that goes into that. These are tenant occupied properties. I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to have a couple pictures though, or let somebody in.
I think a couple pictures and a couple of us would be a good idea. We got a quick shout out here from Juliana. Aloha, Juliana. Welcome to the show. That's Scott's contact, which is great. I'm so glad that you're part of it and joining us. And Auntie Joyce comes back. Agree with Heidi. I got caught in the middle of a Caldor fire earlier this week on Route 50 to Tahoe. closed roads. So I had to come back through San Francisco through Truckee to Route 80. Yep, that's you know, when there's only one way in or only one way out, it messes everything up. Joyce, Andy Joyce, sounds like you're on your way to either coming from or going to Tahoe there. Heidi, what really kind of stuck out to me is the 40% increase over the previous, you know, over the average or whatever it is, whatever the statistic that you mentioned. That is remarkable, because I don't think those prices are coming down ever. They're just going to maybe plateau, but it ain't going to be. I don't think it's going to be bubble. Scott, what do you got what's new in real estate? What do you got for us on Oahu?
So I did a deep dive yesterday into every neighborhood to try to find something that's different that I could show everybody. And I can't, I feel like we're on a hamster wheel. It's Groundhog Day. The market is not slowing down. Every single neighborhood that I looked through for stats was 20 to 25% in price appreciation. So it's across the board. Every neighborhood is very strong. And, you know, the number of listings on the condo side is continuing to decrease. I mean, we were at like 1,300 about a month and a half ago active, and then we were down to 950 active. Now we're down to 899 active, and the number in escrow has eclipsed the ones listed. So it's quickly heading towards that single family home side. The single family home side is 455 listings active. So we're keeping steady with almost no inventory. I mean, I feel really blessed. I was stoked the other day. Kailua is one of the hottest markets right now. This listing had come on the market, went into escrow, over asking, fell out, went back into escrow, fell out, went back into escrow, fell out. And I showed it to my client, and, you know, they lost momentum, and we got it in escrow. It's a phenomenal property. They're going to tear down the house and build. But we got it at list price in a market in Kailua that's typically 107% list to sales price ratio. So we were celebrating, like jumping up and down, because we got a list price, you know, accepted offer on the single family home side. Whereas on the condo side, I got one in escrow at the collection down in Kaka'ako. We were only keep competing with one other offer, and we got it at list price. So that's kind of where the condos are moving to. They're moving to that list price category, but the inventory is decreasing. So we're going to see more inventory coming in that side. But I've looked everywhere for some kind of slowdown, some kind of change. It's not. This thing is steamrolling ahead. And I don't see any slowdown in the near future. If so, it's going to be 5-6 months out from now.
So, you know, we've got the show every other week, and, you know, it's a slight variation on the same theme, which is the market's going crazy, etc. So here's my question to the two of you. Where do we see this ending? Where's this gonna, you know, how far is this gonna go? Because right now the price curve, Heidi, you mentioned it, and I saw this written up in the news. Maui median price for single family homes has been over $1 million now for, I think, 3 months. I think that's gonna be a permanent fixture. I don't think it's gonna go back down below. Prices are continuing to inch up as demand is still high and supply is still low. Where does this end? Heidi, do you have any sense of where this is going to end? Yeah, I mean, you've been in the business for a while. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know the future, Peter.
None of us do. None of us do.
You know, I see more of a leveling off. I mean, I think the big jumps in prices might have already happened, but I mean, demand's just not slowing down, because even though there's not a lot of listings, there's all these buyers that have been waiting and now are ready, and now the time is right for them. So as soon as new listings come on the market, I mean, there's going to be buyers for it. So, I mean, to me, that there's no indication of this slowing down anytime soon. I mean, I think it would take some kind of world event or major changes in policies, or, I mean, something, but just the normal market, I mean, demand is not slowing down. I think if anything, we're just going to see maybe leveling off a little bit. I mean, I don't foresee prices jumping quite as drastically this next year, but I mean, buyers aren't going away.
I think the big thing, my big takeaway from you, Heidi, is that the demand is still high, and, you know, laws of economics, demand, high demand, low supply, prices go up. Scott, what do you think? If you here's a question from Jen, and I think it's relevant to the conversation here. So Jen says, look, not trying to predict the future, but with the insurgence of new residents, do you anticipate that we will have a exit in another few years? Jen, I'm not sure what you mean by exit. My understanding, I guess, exit from this madness. My understanding is there is a high percentage of folks who move to Hawaii only to not like it and move back. Thoughts? So Jen, there's a lot of people who come to Hawaii and move back. But I'm going to put that category. Those aren't the kind of people that plunk down $1 million for a home. The folks who plunked down $1 million or 700,000 for a condo or whatever, they've gone through the process. They've been a part of the islander ohana too. But anyway, that's beside the point. So I don't think that the ones who come, and there are many who leave. There's no question. I mean, a quick statistic I've got for you. Is that the Department of Economic Development, last time I checked, which was a while ago, but I think the stat is still the same. We had about approximately 50,000 people that move to Hawaii every year, and about 60,000 people that leave Hawaii every year. Now, it's not the same 50 that leave, but it's just to kind of show you that there's a lot of people that are leaving Hawaii. I don't think it's the people that just bought a home. Scott, where do you see this going? You're pretty good at predictions, and we're not going to hold you to anything because that's not what we do here. We all know that the future is in motion and no one can see the future. But where do you see this ending, Scott?
Yeah, 100% of what I'm going to predict is going to be wrong. But
there you go.
I see it continuing to go on until either something drastic changes, which could be interest rates. Or affordability, or you hit an affordability ceiling. Because part of what's driving this, besides a lifestyle factor, is the fact that interest rates dropped so much, and that created effectively a 17.5% price drop. So if we're up 21%, that's only like 4% that we're up. And I remember Paul Brubaker was saying on his presentation from the economic side that affordability prior to the shutdown was extremely good. In general, from a marketplace standpoint, housing was actually very affordable for people. And then you have the interest rate drop. So we've got this affordability component that's allowing us to continue to go upward. People can afford it. And I think there's a little bit of like Heidi said, I think we'll start to slow down. We won't continue with 20% price appreciation. That's not sustainable. I think next year we may be double digits, but I think it'll be, in the 10% range, somewhere around there. But something's drastically got to change in the short run to change it on the short period here. I see this kind of carrying out for 2 more years, maybe, but slowing in the acceleration.
I do think that the curve is gonna flatten off per se. In other words, the acceleration curve is gonna flatten down, but it's gonna continue. Now, again, the future is always in motion. I mean, there could be an epsilon a variant shutdown. I mean, this thing, we could be we could be doing COVID forever, and will the world change then? Tom Kerr jumped in as you're just as you're talking about the interest rates. When interest rates start to change in 2023, if the Feds change rates, that could be one of it. So Scott, basically what you just made me aware of, and you mentioned this before, but I kind of hammer it again. The interest rate drop was effectively a big discount. It was a 17% discount in prices. So of course we kind of almost had like a perfect storm, right? You had a kind of drop in interest rates, which essentially was a price cut. Laws of economics, prices go down, more people are going to buy. So you had that. Plus you had the whole COVID thing where people were staying and they didn't want to move because they were uncertain. Plus you had people that realized that Hawaii is the place that you want to be. And so you had a whole influx of things, and you had remote workers. So all kinds of things that kind of all coming together. And like you, I don't see these things. I don't see these things changing. So, all right.
I met with a guy. Actually, he said he watched the show. I met with him in Kailua, and he had a really good point that I believe in, but he said it in a way that was really interesting. We all live on cash flow. So we buy our house on cash flow. If we make $10,000 a month, we're going to put our mortgage payment or our house payment at like $5,000 a month because we want to be positive cash flow, right? And you have to for lender guidelines. So people can still afford those payments fairly easily because the interest rate drop was so good, right? So from a cash flow standpoint, it's very affordable for housing for people right now, and they're going to continue to buy until it's not.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it's going to go. Heidi, is there anything else you want to add before we move on to the next part of the show?
No, I think that covers it. I mean, I think people just waiting for a big drop, you know, they might.
I don't think the drop's coming. It
I
may slow down.
I've been
Drop.
talking to buyers since 2014 that keep saying I'm going to wait till the market crashes and then I'm going to buy, and they've completely missed out.
Wow, that's a great one, Heidi. Since 2014, yeah, I think you missed out. There ain't no crash. We're not going back to 2014, folks. Ain't going back to 2014. Not at all. Phil Shepard just joined us. Aloha, welcome, Phil. Good to see you, buddy.
Phil was who gave me that bit of advice.
There you go, Phil. Oh, great, excellent. Well, Phil, we're glad that you're here with us again. And cash flow is king. Absolutely, right? We got that for. And then Auntie Joyce chimes in. I know natives who are part of the exodus to the mainland, and one did because she got a lot of money for their homes, and others were priced out of the market. Yep, there's all kinds of dynamics, right, Auntie Joyce? I mean, look, there's a lot of people who are, everyone's got a different life, right? Everyone has different lives. And this is why what makes free economies so much more prosperous than controlled economies, because people have different reasons. Some people have, family on the mainland that they want to return to. And this is a perfect time for them to sell the home that they bought 20, 30 years ago. And it's appreciated now. And they could sell it for, over $1 million. And some people are retiring on the mainland with family. Others are moving in the opposite direction because they got remote work, and they can do. We have a couple, Scott, as you know, we have a couple members of the Islander Ohana who have been able to move and buy a home in Oahu because they can do, and Maui for that matter, they could do remote work. So everyone's changing. There's all kinds of different reasons. So excellent. Great. All right, let's move on. We want to give everybody a quick update. I talked about the Islander Ohana. We opened up the fall cohort a couple of shows ago, and I'm totally stoked. We are sold out. So if you can still apply, but we'll put you on the waiting list for the next one, which is going to happen sometime in January probably. But I'm totally stoked. We've got I only take 15 people at a time. We got our cohort of 15. I'm totally stoked. I want to thank you all for being a part of it. Thank you all for joining. I am totally stoked. We have a lot of fun with the Islander Ohana, and I'm kind of stoked about moving on. All right, let's do this. Let's move on to some questions. So so before we move on, let's do this. So before we move on, everybody, so what I wanted to tell you all was this, is that if we're going to go into some, I've got a bunch of slides, questions that people have submitted to the show over the past. I've got them all lined up. We're going to go through these, and then, we'll just do our normal show stuff. But we got 41 people who are here with us live today, right now at this moment. If you've got a question, pop it in the comments right now. You come first. You've got priority. And if we don't get any questions, sit back, enjoy. I hope this is entertaining for you. And we're going to go through the questions as we're going. But I just want to make a point. If you got some questions, pop them in the comments right now, and then we will get to them. All right. Let's move on to the first question that we got queued up for today, which is I've titled this as housing for three. We had a couple of people that ask about these questions, and I thought it would be kind of good. So David from Fort Myers said, hey, look, we're looking for, safe and affordable housing for three. And Rose from North Miami Beach says, hey, what's the cost for a house to accommodate three adults? So if we said, look, housing for three, given today's market and the situation for where it's at, what would be your advice? And Heidi, I've got, since this is the slide, this is the Maui slide. This is the, by the way, folks, if you don't, hey, quick trivia question. What's the view? Where am I at this photo? There's a person whoever took this picture. Tell me where they're at when they physical place. Where physical place are they at? I'll give you hints on Maui. Physical place on Maui where they took this shot. Pop it in the comments. Let's see who gets it first. All right, Heidi. Why don't you get us started? What's your advice to say? Look, I'm looking for housing, safe and affordable housing for three. What would you say?
Well, if you're looking for, say, a 2-bedroom condo on Maui, I mean, you might budget around $3,000. I mean, you might be able to find some things that are less. To rent any kind of house, more like $4,000 to $5,000. A 1-bedroom condo, maybe, I mean, $2,200 to $2,500.
how about a purchase price? I don't think they specifically ask for rent. If you're looking to buy a house, let's talk about buying. So you want to buy a house for 3 people.
Well, I mean, a single family house these days is up towards $1 million, and condos maybe 600,000-700,000 for a 2-bedroom condo in a residential area. I mean, you can find things as low as maybe 400 or 500. And I'm talking about fee simple properties. When you look on Zillow and see properties for 200,000, they're probably leasehold. So, and that is an option too, and it can be more affordable. It's a different type of ownership. But fee simple, I would say for a condo, maybe budget 600,000-700,000, and for a house, I mean, around $1 million. You can find some things that are less. And then depending on what areas you want to be in, I mean, some areas you are really looking starting at 1.5 or 2, like if you want to be in Kaanapali or a gated community somewhere.
Excellent. Thanks, Heidi. And we got our winners here. Is Jeremy. Jeremy jumped in. Looks like Haleakala. Jeremy, that is correct. This is the this is the famous House of the Sun sunrise at Haleakala. And Jen was right behind you. Jen, Haleakala. Although Jen got the I don't know if that's the correct diacritical mark. It probably is, Jen, but thank you. Jen gets extra points because she put the diacritical mark over the A, Haleakala. Scott, how do you respond if someone says, look, we want safe and affording? Well, I guess the safe, right? Safe and affordable, although Hawaii is safe pretty much everywhere. Scott, where would you say to either Rose or to David, who are looking for safe and affordable housing for 3, rough cost?
Yeah, I think those two kind of don't go together, right? The more affordable it gets, then typically the less safe it is, right? You're talking more or less 700,000 for a single family home you're starting, and that's on the outskirts. That's if you get into the Leeward Coast, which then the question is are you okay with the neighborhood? Is it safe? There's a socioeconomic element out that side. That you can get a pretty good home for 700 and maybe a little lower, but once you get into Eva Beach and some of the other outskirt areas, you're 700,000 for something halfway decent. The other option that people don't sometimes think about is on the condo side. I mean, most of the people, you got walk-ups and unsecured buildings, things like that. Most of the people that I deal with that want to be in a condo are secure parking, secure building, security guard cameras, whatever, so that they can get that sense of safety. And then you can get more affordable at that point, 450,000, even in town here, Honolulu, like Waikiki, Punch Bowl, some of those areas are, you can hop, skip over to Kailua, Kaneohe and get some stuff in that same kind of range, 450, 500,000 and up on the condo side, townhouse side. But yeah, the closer into town, the more expensive things get. And the neighborhoods get more expensive on the housing side.
Yeah, so there's quite a range of what you can pull, but it's going to depend. Again, I think the key one is safe and affordable, right? So I think that you mentioned a good point, Scott. Is like, yeah, you might be able to find a condo for 500,000, 450, but it could well be one of these walk-up condos that the security is a fence, and that's about it, and anyone can kind of walk up to your unit, etc. So that's a really good point. You got to really kind of think that through. Actually, there's the leasehold thing that you mentioned, Heidi, and also we got a Dwayne. Dwayne says, hey, how available are leasehold single family properties in the market currently? Good one, specifically on Oahu. And actually, thank you all, because you got my very next slide about this, which is about leasehold. So look at I didn't time it that way, but that's the way it popped up. So this is gonna be great. Let's bring up the leasehold, because actually, now that the prices, that the prices are at historic highs, I wonder if there'll be a return to leasehold. It's inevitable, I would think. Anyway, so here's the question. So Alex says, I'm a single minimalist, not opposed to a small but pleasant living space. I have healthy savings and sufficient salary job lined up in the end of summer. I know I'll want or need to buy a property sooner rather than later. I found attractively priced leasehold studio condos with 7 years on the lease. I think that's the key word, 7 years on lease. Question, Should I consider purchasing before even arriving, assuming the property meets my needs and budget, and find a trustworthy agent? Well, we know who the trustworthy agents are. That's the easy part of the question. So let's take Alex's question over here and kind of expand this into a discussion about leasehold properties. So here's Alex. He's thinking about buying a leasehold. First of all, a quick definition: leasehold, as the word says, is lease. You are leasing the property. You don't own it. Bring it up this way. A leasehold property, as the word says, you lease the property, just like you lease a car. That means there's a term. And when the term is up, the property goes back to the landowner unless there's a renegotiation, an extension of the lease. So it's not at all like a traditional buying. And because of that, the prices will fluctuate. Now, Alex says he's got 7 years on the lease. That means after 7 years, if there's not a renegotiation of that lease agreement, the property goes back to the landowner. Typically, there will be a renegotiation, but you don't know what the new lease amount, which is a monthly rent, there's a monthly rent per se. It's not a rent, it's a lease, but there's a monthly lease amount that you have to pay for that property. So real quick, a primer on that. But leasehold, is this going to come back? I mean, Scott, what's your advice? And Scott's saying no. What's your advice for leasehold? Hit this first one first for Alex. 7 years on the lease. Should he go for it? Number one. And number two, what do you think about leasehold potentially coming back as this market continues to kind of skyrocket?
Yeah, I don't think we'll see leasehold coming back, and it's because the unintended consequences that came down. I mean, you got to look at the history of what leasehold, why it was created. It was created for affordability, right? Which is the point you're kind of talking about, Peter, is will it come back? Because we're getting into prices where people deem it as unaffordable, right? And you're trying to make housing affordable for locals. The problem is they were set on like 99-year leases, and everyone goes, we're not going to have to deal with the problem for a long time down the road. And less than 1% of properties on Oahu are leasehold. So it's not many, but when you have these buildings that are coming due like this, and you have 400 units and 400 people in these units, the city does not want to evict these people, because that's what could happen if the landowner says, I want the units back. They can take them back, fix them up, do whatever they want, resell them, rent them, release them, however they want to deal with it. And that's just a nightmare. In fact, back in 2005, I think it was, or early 2000s, the city council passed a bill trying to force landowners to sell the fee. They went to court, they found it unconstitutional. And then what they did, the state gave significant incentives, in fact, no capital gains tax, if the landowner sold the land to the condo owners, effectively making it fee simple at that point. So I don't think they want to get back into that. There's some that are left, and I think they'll stick around for a little while until somebody eventually sells the land. But it's not, there's the unintended consequences down the road are too big of a headache. To his answer, what he was asking, the question is, it's obviously not the same kind of asset or the same kind of give you the same kind of financial stability. Are you, what is that cost benefit analysis to you? You have a risk that in 7 years, you may be walking away from the money you're plopping down on that. If it's cheap enough and it's going to be less than what rent is going to be, and you don't care that you're going to walk away in 7 years, fine, buy it. That's a decision you got to make in your head. This unit, the first unit I ever bought, was leasehold, but the landowner had died and there were 3 owners, and I ran the numbers and I'm like, these guys aren't going to want to keep the land. They're going to want the cash and get out. I took a risk on that. The renegotiation fee was coming up and they ended up selling it. So, and I had a discount on it because of that. Now you got to be really careful. It's just a more risky purchase, and you have to analyze whether or not the money that you're putting in, is it okay if you have to walk away from it? San Souci down on the beach has 2 years left on the lease. You can buy a studio unit right on the beach for $200,000 to $250,000, and you may be walking away from that money in 2 years. Is that worth it to you?
That's a great point. I'm going to come back to you later, Scott, with a question about the current leasehold market prices rise. But let's talk about that later, because I want to get to Heidi. Heidi, what's your sense? What would you tell? First of all, what would you tell Alex here? Alex, who's asking about this leasehold condo, sight unseen, by the way, 7 years on the lease. Buy it before I write. Let's kind of hit that one. And then, what's your sense of what's going to happen? Where do you see the leasehold market going on Maui?
Well, I mean, leasehold and sight unseen are are kind of two different things to talk about. But I'll talk about the leasehold market first. You know, is leasehold coming back? It's not coming back in the sense there's going to be more inventory of leasehold. However, so every year that goes by in a leasehold, you have a year less on the lease. So logically, you think, well, it's going to go down in value every single year. Well, that's not how the leasehold market works at all. Leasehold markets appreciated significantly over the past few years. And the reason is people look at leasehold and compare it to what else they could buy that's fee simple. So, I mean, I've sold leasehold and they've doubled in value. And it just depends on where the market is at that time. And I'm noticing, because we're in a super strong market right now, is leasehold properties that probably would have been sitting on the market in past years are selling quicker because we just have less inventory in general. And the prices, I mean, $300,000-$400,000 to get something beachfront is just way more affordable and attractive to somebody versus spending $1 million. So, I mean, the leasehold market is, I don't know, kind of coming back. And then I don't know, do you want to talk about the sight unseen?
Sure. Yeah. Hit the sight unseen one.
My recommendation to buyers is, if you can, I mean, if you can make it over to Maui, you should try to come over and see the property you're buying. If you've been to the area many times, if you know the neighborhood, if you know the condo complex, you can probably do things virtually. I mean, I do a lot of FaceTime tours with buyers, and we have a lot of technology to look at everything. But I think especially if you haven't been to the area, been to the neighborhood, it's worth getting on a plane and coming over, because it's a big investment in real estate. So, I mean, totally up to you as the buyer, how much risk you're willing to take. But I mean, even with all the video tours and 3D tours and everything, I mean, there's nothing like seeing a property in person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. I mean, like you said, I think the qualifier would be if, for example, you had gone to a resort destination, a given property, and you go there, let's say every year, and you know it like the back of your hand, and a unit in that building goes for sale. Yeah, maybe you can get that one unseen. But other than that, it's like the difference, as you were saying this, Heidi, you're so right about it. You could do all the videos and photos that you want, but it's sort of like the difference between looking at a map of a trail, right, versus being on the trail, right? There's a difference. There's a difference of looking at the map and being actually on the trail itself. Scott, Heidi touched on what I kind of want to come back to you on, which is, yes, leasehold's never going to quote come back as and Heidi well expressed, as an increased inventory. There won't be more properties coming on the market for leasehold. But what do you think is going to happen to the existing properties on leasehold? Have you been seeing a price movement? Are they also going up, although maybe not as much? Are they also going up as well? What do you see happening as far as that goes on leasehold?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, whenever you're analyzing the market in general, looking at what you're going to do, if fee simple prices have gone up considerably, then considering leasehold, you're going to compare that, right? You're going to see, okay, well, wow, that's way up here now. Look how affordable I can get this. But you have to analyze every leasehold property in and of itself, because every single leasehold property, let's say a condo building, for example, you got two different condo buildings. They're both leasehold. One could be $30,000 for a 1-bedroom unit, and the other one could be $500,000 for that leasehold unit. Why? Because the lease on the other one and the lease terms are significantly better on the other one and longer and further out. And the one on the $35,000 one is up in 3 years. No leases are the same. Every single one of them is different. There's periodic step ups, there's renegotiation periods, and then there's the end of the lease term. And they can all be, none of them are the same. So you really got to analyze property by property, and then analyze it to what your options are out there, and then you make the decision. So naturally, with a market going up like this, yeah, it increased the leasehold component. It will never get to the speed that we're dealing with fee simple properties because of that leasehold element because of the fear of the unknown of, okay, what happens at this trigger point? What happens when the lease expires? What happens when there's a renegotiation? You don't know. So there's always a longer lag time, days on market and things with leasehold.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. Fee simple is the way to go, and that's by far. A couple of questions have popped in. Tom Kerr, who Tom joined our fall 2021 Islander Ohana. So Tom, looking forward to working with you. Tom says, I don't intend to buy a leasehold condo, but I've been watching leasehold condos in Poipu and Kauai, some 20 plus units in one complex, because I learned the monthly lease fee rent is up in 2022. As a result, I've seen some healthy price drops. Yeah, Tom, exactly. I mean, you think about it, right? So the lease fee is going to be, the lease rent's going to be up. Now, I don't know if it's been negotiated yet, what it's going to be in 2022. They may or may not have negotiated. I'm going to guess that the reason why you've seen those price drops is because one of two things. Either they know what the rent is going to be in 2022 and it's substantially higher. So Scott, like to your point earlier, it's this cash flow thing. It's almost like the interest rates going up. The price has essentially those lease rents going up, Tom, have increased the price of the condo. And because if it's increased the price of the condo, the quote selling price, the lease price has gone down. So that's kind of what you're seeing, some most likely what's going on because of that. Here's one from Dwayne. Say you have 7 years left on the leasehold. Couldn't you ask that? There you go. That's what Scott says. Yes, Scott says no. It's going to cut me off. Couldn't you ask to do a subcontract? Thanks, Scott. Couldn't you ask to do a subcontract to guarantee a renegotiation on that 7th year? Scott, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, essentially what happens, the association. So all the unit owners are a part of association. And the association board will typically hire an attorney. There's a couple of attorneys that specialize in this, and they'll engage the landowner with negotiations for an extended contract, an extended lease, or a renegotiation, whatever it is, in bulk. And sometimes the landowner will make the fee available, and usually when they make the fee available, it's in bulk. So 75% of the owners agree to buy, and 25% don't. The association will try to buy that 25% out. So then the association becomes the fee owner, and the unit owners pay the association the lease rent from there going forward. That's a good scenario where I've seen it transition. But yeah, the association negotiates in bulk. The landowner does not want to deal with individual owners. He's going to say, take a hike, move on. That gets way too complicated.
It gets, yeah, it's one big huge contract. Quick, Tom says, also aren't many leasehold condos purchased by investors as VRBOs versus a full-time resident? Could be. It all depends on the math, Tom. You know, it's still the numbers are the numbers. There's the price that you pay to get the fee, and then there's the monthly price that you have to pay as far as the lease rent. Can you make that and then there's maintenance fees, etc. Can you make that balance out? Is the market willing to kind of have renters pay more? Can you make out? Some do and some don't. And I would think in that case, as an investor, you're going to care less about the lease expiring because you don't care. The only question is, you can get back a good return on your investment. Gene Reynolds says, fee simple is the only way to go. I've been in a leasehold and was happy to sell it. Scott, I got my booster vaccine at Kapiolani Hospital. So there must be some inside game there between you and Gene about the booster shot. Scott,
I sold her leasehold unit for her many, many years ago. One of my favorite people. Hi, Gene.
Awesome. Hey, Gene.
And helped them with the other side.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and look, and Scott, we've talked about this before. Your first property was leasehold. My first property was leasehold, and I bought it because it was a bunch of things. It was affordable. I believe I had. This was a long time ago, but I had something like 30 or 40 or 30 years left on the lease, so there was no way I was gonna, worry about it. And I only held the property for maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years. I don't know how long it was, and I sold it. And right timing, got lucky, blah, 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 doubled my money on it. It was amazing.
There's nothing wrong with leasehold. It's being informed with what the decision that you're making. That's it. You don't need to shy away from it necessarily. If it fits and you're educated on it, it might be a good way to go.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that's well put. Know what you're getting involved with. Know what you're getting involved with. Just a funny side note. Some of you may remember this. I mentioned before that first leasehold. This is so funny. That first leasehold condo I bought was a 1-bedroom unit. $64,000. That's what I paid for that. $64,000 for the one bedroom. So think about that one, folks. Okay, it's getting we're moving on time over here. We're going to move on to Diamonds and Deals, where we've got our friends have put together some properties that they want to highlight. And let's go to this first one. Oh man, this looks like a resort. So this is 20 Hui Road. Is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home with 2.75 leasehold. Heidi, how did you know we're going to talk about leasehold? My God, did we plan this? What happened? This is great. Heidi, what are we looking at? This is amazing.
So this is a new listing that just came on the market this week, and it's at a property called Aloha. It is oceanfront. You can kind of see the aerial view in the top right corner. I mean, it's just a phenomenal, phenomenal site with beach access. They're all individual cottages. So it's a condominium community. The condominium takes care of all the landscaping, and it's gated and the common areas, but everybody has their own little cottage oceanfront here. So it's really, really cool. There's no other place quite like it. The list price here is $1,275. It is a leasehold property. There's quite a lot of time on this lease. I believe it goes to 2069 or so. I mean, I would have to verify, but there is a long time on it. And if there's at least 30 years left on the lease, that qualifies people for, they could do a 1031 exchange and buy here, because you can't normally do a 1031 exchange with leasehold. They do allow rentals of 30 days or longer, so people can do some vacation rentals here if you want, and a lot of people live here full time as well.
Thank you, Heidi. This is again, folks. We know this is God's way of designing our show here. Heidi put a leasehold property, and now let's just say, Heidi, for discussion purposes, let's just say that the lease expires in 2070. Now that may not be the case, folks. I want to disqualify it. Make sure you look into the details. We're just using it as a conversation piece. It's not unthinkable, because that's 50 years from today. So if the lease, so here's a question for you all. For our internet audience here, our YouTube, Facebook Live audience, if you were looking for a leasehold, especially if you're in your 40s, right? Would you, if this was available and you were looking at homes, and Heidi, give it really quick, what would be, if this home was fee simple, rough, what would be the cost? Rough.
Maybe like 4 million.
Okay, let's say 4 million. So here's the choice. You want to get a beautiful, gorgeous beachfront property. You could either spend 4 million for fee simple, or you can spend 1.275 and have a 50-year lease. And let's just say, again, for discussion purposes, you'll be dead before the lease is up. Now, it doesn't matter, because you may want to turn over to your family or whatever, but you'll be dead before the lease is up. What would you rather buy? Would you rather get the 1.25 and get the beachfront, amazing beachfront property, or spend $4 million for the exact same property? What would you do? Throw it in the comments. I want to see that. So Jen says sold. She's sold. Jen, hey, get a hold of Heidi and get that thing, man. But that's a question for you all. What would you do? Would you buy the leasehold, knowing that by the time the lease is up, you'll be dead, and meanwhile you've enjoyed a beautiful property for 1.275, and you can, let's just say you have let's just go even further. Let's just say you've got the $4 million. Would you rather plunk down 4 million for a leasehold? I mean, for a fee simple property, or plunk down 1.275, pocket the 2.8 million in your pocket, and do whatever you want to do with it, enjoy your lifestyle, enjoy yourself, right? What would you rather do? And here we go, right? So Choi says, do the leasehold. Yeah, right, exactly, right. And so does Dwayne, lease all day. So this is a great example. We just showed you how leasehold can work under certain circumstances. Again, you guys still got to know what you're doing, got to know what's going on, etc. So, all right, I think we beat that leasehold thing to a pulp here. Okay, Scott's got Scott, we just talked about some great range there. Waikiki Studio. What's this?
Yeah, so I went with an affordable transient, unit, legal vacation rental unit. It's a studio for $380,000 right in the heart of Waikiki. Got great views. I mean, check that out. That's Kalakaua Avenue in the right picture that's coming down the road there. So you're right in a good spot, Fort DeRussy Park, overlooking that. So you got some green space between you. It's 313 square feet. It comes with a kitchenette with a 2-burner range, a built-in microwave. You know, it's a very nice studio. Travertine flooring, granite countertops, full granite backsplash. They did a great job, but fee simple. You put it in the hotel rental pool if you want. You don't necessarily have to, but you can. It gets really good occupancy, and you're right in the heart of Waikiki. Block it off sometimes and come and use it.
Scott Sherry's asking, what's the monthly homeowners association fees here?
It's actually not bad. It's about $750, but it includes electricity, water, sewer, trash, cable, and internet. So
wow, that's completely reasonable. That's
totally.
not. That is a good price.
So you walk out, you're right on Luxury Row. So you're right by the Ritz. You're right by a lot of really good shops and restaurants. Good location.
I still can't. In my mind, I know where Fort DeRussy is. But I can't place what I'm looking at. But don't go into detail. I don't want to bore you with my lack of a spatial understanding. Okay, a bunch of questions. Scott, I think we got some buyers here. So Troy is asking, is it noisy? Troy says, is it noisy from traffic? Jason Sims is like, oh wow. Okay, tell us some more about the property, Scott. Is it noisy? What's going on?
Yeah, you'll get. I mean, you should expect noise in Waikiki no matter what. But sound travels up. You're right on Kalakaua Avenue, so you will get noise.
What floor is this on? What floor is this on?
I think it's the top floor, which I think is the 11th floor. It's not a tall building.
Okay, 11th floor. Got it. So you're gonna get noise. That's Waikiki. You're gonna get noise. You are 11 floors up as opposed to the second floor. So 11 floors is better than 2. So you're gonna get some.
You offset it with views at least.
You know, I mean, hey man, look and not just that, but look, a studio in Waikiki, $380,000. It's fee simple. It's a legal transient vacation rental. Scott, any sense of what the rents are going? What you can? I mean, you could put this up for $500 a day, easy. I would think if you rented it.
I don't. That's a good question, because I wonder how things are going to adjust, because the hotels are able to charge so much now. So are the Airbnb people able to bump that up a little bit? I don't have the numbers on this. I haven't seen it, and they don't post the pro forma, so I would have to go and dig it.
Gang, winner, if you want this property, there's a link in the descriptions. Click on the link and get on the form, and let's do it. All right. Hey, you know, I must say it's definitely Dylan's presence was absolutely missed. It was absolutely missed, but we had a great show today. All right, let's kind of move on to our closing thought. Let's kind of wrap this one up. Let's see, Heidi, why don't you go first? What's your closing thought for today?
Well, my closing thought is, Scott, I'd love to buy that studio in Waikiki.
That's a closing thought. Closing in terms of close the sale closing thought. Excellent closing thought, Scott. Scott, what's your closing thought for today? What's your closing thought for today?
My closing thought is the pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, and with all the difficulty we've been going through and stuff, it's easy to kind of focus on that sometimes. But for me, I always try to shine on the opportunity side. And I had a conversation with I had dinner with a client the other night at their house, and we had the conversation about all the positives that have come out of COVID. That it's not good that people have died and we're in this kind of environment, but the positive things that have come out of it, including this show. I mean, we never would have been doing this if it wasn't for COVID. So it's focus on the positive.
Well said. Focus on the positive. And Auntie Joyce agrees. Now, Auntie Joyce, I got to tell you, if you don't know already, Auntie Joyce is a huge fan of Dylan, and she's called Auntie. Dylan calls her Auntie Joyce. That's how she got her name here on the show. So she's considered a family. But Dylan missed a great show. Yeah, he did. I hope he'll watch it. Very informative regarding fee simple versus leasehold. Mahalo, my friends. Yeah, I'm glad we had a chance to kind of dig into that. We kind of skipped around that. I've got some. There is in the Islander Ohana courses on the fee simple details. But yeah, and MK says, yep, focus on the positive. Absolutely. So I actually put together a closing thought for today. I had told you all that one of my things I've learned to do, and I've really been enjoying is I read the Bible. I read Proverbs, and Proverbs is really cool because Proverbs has the book of Proverbs there's 31 chapters, and so it's easy. You just read the chapter of Proverbs on the day of the week it is. And so this week I was reading through my Proverbs, and I came up with this one, which I really enjoyed. Proverbs 16:13. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. Now, what does that mean? To me, that means commit your work to a higher purpose. It's not just about an immediate gratification. It's not just about the money or whatever. Commit your work to something higher, something more than you, and your plans will be established. Focus on the spiritual. To me, that's what that means. It doesn't mean and again, it doesn't matter what you believe in as your higher, whatever you think is whatever you think is the higher power, whatever you think is the higher purpose. That's my closing thought for today. All right, folks, this was a great one. Thanks, Solf, and Jen was here. Jen Tomko says, mahalo, always a great informative show. Thank you, Jen. It's you folks that make it great and informative. All right, I'm going to say goodbye. Scott and Heidi, say goodbye.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha. Have a great weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy the admissions day. We never talked about that, but that's going to be for another show. All right, folks, take care.